Right guys, now I really feel this type of video is sorely lacking within this whole industry. Why is that? Because there's a lot of videos out there talking about how to hire a contractor or freelancer or team member, whatever you would like to call them. I call them team members. And there's a lot of information out there on how to structure a client relationship or how to communicate with a client. But what there isn't a lot of is how to communicate with your team, how to structure that relationship. So in this video, I thought I'll show you my 4 pillars of team communication, which are expectations, workflow, with the client communication, and with yourself, the business owner communication. But before I go into each pillar individually, I really just want to cover something and make something super clear. And that is to keep all your communication within one centralized platform. 1, because it's a time saver, and 2, it allows the actual contractor and client to communicate together. So one piece of advice, if you take anything from this video, is to keep everything within one centralized platform. But without further ado, let's get straight into the first pillar. So the first pillar has all to do with expectation, basically the base rules, and I have 3. The first one is other team communication. Now I'm going to give you an example. With my Facebook ad expert, I would want them to go to the graphic designer themselves if they need any graphical work. I don't want them coming to me to go to the graphic designer. My second base rule has to do with responsiveness. Now Monday to Friday, they have to respond to a client within 6 hours. Saturday and Sunday, there's a bit more leeway because it's the weekend. And also under responsiveness, if a client has a service specific question, they answer that question. If it's a general question, then either me or my project manager will answer that question. And the third is independent. Now, you don't want to be a micromanager. You don't want someone who needs their hand held constantly. You want someone who can actually improve your own internal systems and make getting the client better result a #1 priority. You don't want someone who's just an order taker and just wants you to outline everything plain and simple. So those are my 3 base rules. Now, when it comes to the actual workflow, the second pillar, I have 2 elements within this. 1 is step-by-step process. So if you work with a social media manager, you might want to give them a step-by-step process to follow so they can get results for a client. But if you're working with a Facebook ad manager, really you just want to outline a workflow. So this can be in document form, but caution with this, because if you're hiring a Facebook ad expert and they already have results for a particular client, you really just want them to replicate those results. So you don't want to really intrude in their workflow too much. You want them to feel confident and independent enough to be a problem solver and get results for the client the way they see fit. So workflow, either step-by-step process or give them a document to follow. But if they're independent, then let them do their thing, if that makes sense. Now, when it comes to the communication with the actual client, there's 2 elements to this. The first one is the onboarding call. I like to have my contractors, my freelancers on the onboarding call. Why? Because I want the client to feel confident enough to communicate with the contractor. I don't want to keep the contractor behind sight, almost at the back end. I want them to be at the forefront, so if any problems arise, then the actual client will feel confident enough to contact the contractor. And also this saves them going to you to go to the contractor. You want it to be streamlined, the whole communication. So on the onboarding call, I introduce the contractor. And secondly is the monthly client call. Now here, I want the contractor to be on the call again, but more so for feedback purposes, because one of the last things you want to be doing is being on a call with a client and then they're giving you feedback and you relay that feedback to the actual contractor, but then it's almost like Chinese whispers where they hear something else that your client has told you. So really just have them on the same call when it comes to onboarding and the monthly client call. And plus, one little tip is, for the actual reporting at the end of the month, you can make this a verbal report instead of a written one if you have end of month calls. Just a little tip there. And the last pillar has to do with the communication with yourself. Now, this is what I currently do. I currently have a weekly team call. This is typically on a Friday, so we can go over what's happened during the week and plan for the next week. If there hasn't been any problems, then it's a really short call. It's just saying, well done, let's carry on with the next week. If any problems have arisen, then you really want to have this call just to iron out any problems. Now, the second element with communication with yourself has to do with updates. What I typically do is I have a specific channel with my team members that is outside of the client channel, and this is where they update me on any progress or problems they're having. Now, I used to have them send me messages at the end of every single day, Monday to Friday, just outlining what they did. Now, this is really tedious, and at the end of the day, as long as things are going well, there's no need to message you. So I just let them send me appropriate updates of what's happening during the week. Now, this is my 4 pillars of team communication. By all means, as I develop, this will probably change, but for right now, this is working superb within my agency. Now, if this was a useful video to you, please like the video. If you have any questions regarding team communications or anything to do with Upwork, please put a comment below. And as always, subscribe if you see the content as valuable. And I'll be seeing you really, really soon with another value-packed video. Take care.